Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of the Obvious Leadership Podcast. We got Joy on the line. I'm Omar. We'll be your host for the day. Uh, in the last episode, we talked about CRMs and kind of our takes on the CRMs, right? Joy had a little bit of fire in his belly on the topic, and we thought it'd be only fitting to, dive a little bit more into the CRM topic. So today we're going to talk about some softwares. We're going to talk about, other ways to essentially create like an in-house CRM. So if you're a little bit smaller, if you're just trying to get going, like simple little ways to be able to do it that, trust me, are not pen and paper, because the times you physically lose that stuff, it's all gone. I've been there before. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, you definitely want something cloud-based, is how I would say it. Accessible on multiple devices.
Yeah, that definitely makes it easier, right? And I'll talk about this because we were talking earlier off camera. And like I've mentioned in the last video, I've used plenty of different CRM softwares for organizations and for myself. And there's a lot of different things out there besides like the big names. I know Joe was talking about like Salesforce. There's nothing wrong with it. If you're starting off, though, it may not be the route you want to go. There's a lot of free, essentially CRM type of software that you can use out there to be able to help you get going. And I'm just going to list a few. There's no affiliation. There's no, affiliate marketing partnerships with this kind of stuff. There's no ads. So we're not getting paid to do this. If you guys want to pay us to talk about this stuff, we can talk about that at a later point, by the way. Okay. Wink, wink. But what's funny is, so a long time ago, one of the first CRM softwares I personally came across was one called Soho, right? That's COHO. It's actually still around. And the crazy thing is, this is back in the day. When I say back in the day, I'm talking about like 2005, 2006. Okay. So yeah, almost like 20 years ago at this point. And it looked very rudimentary. Right. I'm talking about, it wasn't like a lot of bells and whistles. It has changed from what I've seen now. Right. But it was a different way. It was a way to be able to organize like your emails, like notes and all of that into essentially one location. And you can add like other people onto the platform so that you can be able to distribute that information across other people. All right.
Right.
So that's been one that I've used. I know we talked about using essentially like Microsoft 365. They have a couple of different things, from the most basic being Excel. There's another thing in there that actually, so everybody knows what Power BI is, or should know what Power BI is, right? It's driven by Microsoft in being able to incorporate different reports to be able to pull in and see exactly where you're at, right? As far as sales data, KPIs, the works. On the flip side, it also has a CRM software that you can try to customize for yourself, known as Symphony, right? Which there's no bad stuff, right? If you're a large organization, it might be a little bit nicer to use things like that. Then you have other things where you may not think is a CRM, but actually is a CRM tool. And we see this a lot in like the email marketing. Right. So for instance, like Aweber, MailChimp is a big one. ClickFunnels is another one. Right. And you have a bunch of different tools at your disposal. But guys, you can have as many tools as you want. If you don't know how to use the tools, if you're overwhelmed by the tools, if you never use the tools, then it's not going to do you any good.
Right. Well, I mean, kind of like what we talked about in our previous episode, right? You have to be able to use that information to move in the right direction, right?
Exactly.
So while you have the tool in front of you, if you're not trying to constantly make it better for your situation and apply it to your particular need, then you might not be using it in the right fashion, right? So there's a lot of different tools out there. You got to find the right one that is good for your particular business and for the growth that you need.
Yep. It's got to be helping you drive yourself forward and the organization forward. It can have as many bells and whistles as you want. If those bells and whistles don't help propel you forward, they're not needed.
Right. Right. Exactly. So I mean, we talked. I mean, we've been in sales, right? Like, what are some of the non-negotiable things that you think should be part of the CRM when it comes to sales?
First and foremost, email,
Okay.
name, phone number.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
I need to be able to have a way to contact you.
Yeah.
Right. That's, in my opinion, those are the three must haves. There's a bunch of other things too. Those are honestly the three must haves. Sometimes we forget about that stuff where somebody writes, or grabs a person's not just name
Right.
and completely forgets to grab their contact information because the customer's going to call them back or the customer's going to come back in. Guys, as leaders, we know this. We've been there. A person says this as an individual. I say I'm going to go back. Life happens.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I might forget and completely I was hot and I was going to do it. And something happened, something came up and I completely forgot about it. Right.
Yeah.
But I've also been on the flip side where I have the customer's information. They ghosted me. I don't take it personal. And guys, that's the last thing you should do. I hear people say, oh yeah, if you don't close them, never take it personal. Things happen. Right. If your friends cancel on you because something happened and you get pissed off because that thing that happened was actually pretty serious for them, like I would reevaluate our friendship. And that's the same way I look at it in a sales position, right? Something came up, cool. I'm still going to be in contact with you. I got your info, so I can follow up with you. I can follow up with you in a couple of weeks. I can follow up with you in a couple of months. I can send you a quick email reminder, right? And boom, I'm still in the forefront. And we're like, oh yeah, you know what? This person's been reaching out. I'll reach out to them.
Yeah. Or I'll respond. I think that is the basis of you trying to establish a customer. If you don't have their name, if you don't have a way to contact them, whether that's email or phone number, can you even call that person a customer? Right? Is that person even a prospect for you? Like, it's one of those things. It's no more just about, oh, I handed this person my card and they're going to get back with me when they're ready. Like, there are so many avenues of how to make a sale nowadays, right? You can make a sale without even talking to anybody. You can go online and pretty much buy anything that you want to buy, right? Without having to talk to anybody, right? But you and I know as salespeople that, sometimes there's things that I may not understand about a particular situation that a salesperson can open the doors to different solutions, right? That you didn't know was out there. And as a salesperson, if you're not putting your best foot forward and explaining that to the customer, then what are you doing, right? If you're not getting their contact information to follow up, to say, hey, look, if you're not ready right now, you know what? I'll follow up with you in 6 months, right? Yeah. Back in the day, that follow up never happened, right? But that's what the CRM is for. You put their contact information in, make a little note of when you're going to follow up, and I mean, if you're following your process on your CRM, you'll actually follow up, right? I mean, I think that's the major benefit with the CRM.
No, big time, big time. And another thing that you should add, like if you're just doing a homegrown, home brewed CRM and you're just using like Google Sheets or Excel, okay? Obviously, those three are going to be a big topic. The fourth one, just like he's talking about, like Joey's talking about, is making notes. Like, and here's the thing, guys. If you've ever done e-commerce before, you know this, you have your products and your products are categorized by not just one bit, a multitude of different categories that products will fall under. Why? Because when a person runs through the checkout, I can now tag them with what they've bought in the past. And if they've allowed me to follow up with marketing emails, I can now touch base with them in the future about other products I have in that category space or things that might be relevant to that category space that they may want to go look after.
Right.
And you'll be able to, and that's what some of the nicer, better CRMs do really good at. Other times though, if you get too stuck on trying to grow that CRM into this big, massive database, you forget about the small little intricacies that will allow you that special connection where you can tag it and you can actually follow up with those tags the way they're intended. Because there's no point in tagging a customer with a certain hashtag or a certain, they're essentially hashtags, right? But there's no point in tagging them if you're never going to do anything in the future with those, if you're never going to do any follow-up marketing in that particular category, right? There is absolutely no reason to add those on. And you shouldn't be waiting years down the road to implement those. That is stuff that is actionable. Because guess what? If you're in remodeling, for instance, right, and you're doing cabinets, you put the customer in. You think that's the end of that for the customer if you did their kitchen cabinets? No.
Right.
You got their bathrooms, you got their bedrooms, you got the patio, right? You have a bunch of other stuff that you could reach out to. They may want to do another remodel in 5-10 years.
Mm-hmm.
They may have another property.
Right.
So being able to have that noted and having the proper follow-up procedures, and this is what we were talking about in the last video, where if you're going to do tasks in a CRM, you want them to be focused on driving the business, but you have to have an end goal in mind, because if you're just doing something to do something and you don't follow up with it, it's going to lead you to nowhere.
Right. You got to have a purpose as to why you're doing a certain task. You bring up remodeling, right? And that's one of those things where, like, a lot of times you think it's just a remodeler gets a job, they go do it, and they move on to the next one, right? But
that's what most of them do, by the way, guys. So this is golden. Listen to Joey.
So let's say you do a kitchen, right? Whatever it is, you do a kitchen for this person, right? And you capture their information. And now they're part of the CRM where maybe you as a remodeler has grown to take on new projects, right? And as being part of your CRM, you're sending out new stuff for backyard designs, or you're sending out new stuff for, like a garage, reconfiguration, right? Or, a new way to use that space, or whatever kind of information that you are growing with, right? In your years of experience, you're passing that along to your existing customers that have not only trusted you because they bought from you, they most likely maybe recommended you because of the awesome job that you did, right? But by you being in front of them when it comes to like email marketing and things like that, man, you're gaining a lot of attention that way, right? And keeping yourself relevant. I think it's important.
Oh, big time. And guys, we can go past email marketing. We can do like SMS texting. You can do social media follow-ups, right? There's so much that you can do. Like, literally, your imagination is the end, right? If you can imagine it, it can happen. And it all starts with getting their name and their contact information, right? So name, email, and phone number. Without those three pieces of information, all of this stuff is irrelevant.
And that's why we say, like as salespeople, you already have a little bit of a process, right? But, like I remember when I first got in sales, like I was taking stuff down by paper, right? And I had this little book that I walked around with me everywhere. And it worked for a little bit, but it came to a point where I had so many customers in my book that it just was impossible to go back and find. I was like, oh man, like I ran across this idea for this certain person. And if I would have notated them a certain way, I would have been able to find them so quick in a CRM. But because I was, pen and paper, it didn't work out very well, right? So, learning to adapt to those things, I think is it's very beneficial in business.
Oh yeah, big time. And so just like I was saying, right, the last thing you want to do is lose that. That's happened to me where I used to have notebooks, right, with customer information, and not like CP&I stuff, but like notes on projects, right?
Oh, right.
And I'd be able to reference it back. And I wasn't doing what I needed to do at that point, which is actually notating it in my CRM the way I should have, because I was like, it's just faster for me to write it because I can remember it better. And guys, psychologically, yes, if you write something down, pen and pad, you will remember it a whole lot better than any other method. right? So I already knew this, and that's why I was doing it. And then all of a sudden, spring cleaning, and somebody decided to throw out a bunch, and that wasn't me, but somebody decided to throw out a bunch of a bunch of pads I had because they were used. And it's like the dates on them were 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I
Right.
mean, if you're that remodeler, man, 2 years ago, sometimes it takes 2 years to close a customer, right?
Yeah.
And that's valuable information, right? So that's
Yep.
not something we want to throw away. That's why I say multiple devices, multiple access points is a must.
Big time. You don't have to worry about it like accidentally being erased. And guys, the reason we're big on the cloud stuff is if you don't know this, if you save something on a software that is cloud based, a lot of times it allows you to restore something if you accidentally deleted some lines or deleted a file,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't be scared of technology. Understand that it's there to assist you, right?
All right.
But that's a big thing, guys, right? And we're talking to a bunch of different people. If you're older, you're scared of technology somewhere or another form, you want the pen and pad and you want to do it old school. I get it, right? Learn how to use the tools to make your craft easier because it's all there to make you better. If you're younger, you're scared sometimes talking to people and closing things the right way. So let me just send a bunch of email stuff and yada yada, right? But sometimes things get stuck. Trust me, if you looked at my inboxes, and this I learned a long time ago, I do not open up every single email. I know which emails are important and what to look out for. And 95% of the rest of the stuff, I will not open
Right.
because mentally it takes a toll to go through all those lines of email. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I just focus on the stuff that's important and I just let the rest of it just go by the wayside. Okay. And I'm not the only one that does that. Right.
But
So if all you're doing is sending emails, having that phone number makes a difference because sometimes a small, quick text,
there you go.
oh, you've been emailing me?
Exactly. That personal touch, right? Because I'm glad you brought that up because you definitely don't want to fall into the lull of I'm just going to send out a whole bunch of emails, right? Because there are a lot of people just like that. I mean, I don't know how many people don't check their mail, like their physical mail, right? And there are companies out there still sending mailers out there,
Yeah.
and you know, I don't even know what the success rate of anything like that is. And I'm sure email might be a little bit better. You probably reach more people. It's cheaper to do it through email, right? But if you capture that information and you reach out by a text message or maybe even a phone call, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um, I think that's that personal touch that you as a salesperson, as a company, can take upon yourself to reach out to a customer and let them know about something that you're doing. And then say, hey, look, yeah, I sent you an email about it a couple months ago. I can send it to you again if you needed, if you need to. But it just shows that you're trying to stay in touch with that person. You value their opinion, you value their business, and I think that goes a long way.
No, big time. And guys, that's the whole point of a CRM. It's a customer relationship management tool, right?
Right.
It's not going to create the relationships for you. It's going to help you to be able to stay in contact, to continue that relationship that you've been building, right?
Right.
And use them appropriately. Okay. There's, just like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's a plethora of them. There's so many different CRM tools. There is not one that is better than the other for you. You're going to find out which ones work best. And guess what? You might change them as your business evolves, right? Where this one worked really well, but now I need to switch to something else that can handle something or a different category a whole lot better.
Right.
Or I'm going to use multiple ones and I have one that's centralized. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. Just
Yeah.
understanding how it functions in your organization, how it functions for you is going to be key to the success that you'll have using those CRM tools. Don't forget, though, at the end of the day, name, contact information.
The must. The must. I just had something that I don't know. A great idea. I mean, maybe something for me. I was like, I need to have one for prospects. I need to have one for like current projects, right? So, I can have a way to reach out to my prospects, something that I'm trying to close business on, or maybe something that was, hey, follow up with me in six to 12 months, whatever the case is, right? And then
Yeah.
you have another one maybe to follow up with people that you are currently working on a project for, like providing follow-ups and updates for the project that's going on. It's just little things that are, popping in my head that could work for different scenarios.
Oh yeah. And every CRM is going to handle it differently. At the end of the day, the easiest is still creating some kind of like hashtag to be able to put them in a different funnel or in a different pipeline portion to be able to easily discern where they're at. So that can be very easily done. And that's the beautiful thing about CRM is it can make managing the whole prospect or the whole process a lot easier. Right. So you're not stuck pen and pad trying to figure out exactly where you're at with everything. And you can focus more on actual steps and actions that will further you and the organization.
Agreed, man.
All right, guys. With that said, we want to thank you for jumping into another episode of the Obvious Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Omar.
I'm Joey. Thank y'all for joining in, guys. Please like and subscribe. If y'all have any questions, any comments about what we talked about today, please leave them below.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right, guys. Later.
And that brings us to the end of today's Obvious Leadership episode. Remember, every great leader starts with one step, and you're already on your way. Small changes lead to significant impact. Until next time, keep leading with purpose, and remember that leadership is the key to unlocking extraordinary results.